Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to DataBytes, episode 8. It's kind of shocking to us we're on episode 8, but I've got with me the usual suspects. Chris Moriarty is sitting out in Washington, and Jason Baumgartner is sitting in beautiful Boise, Idaho, and we're going to jump right into it. It's time for something new. We're transitioning to something new, and we're going to cover that at the end, so just be ready for that. Jason, what did you see across the country this week?
Across the country, we saw a slight uptick, even though we did have some inclement weather, specifically in the middle part of the country and in the southeast, which did affect overall volumes. This week, compared to this particular week last year, about 13.8% down compared to 2019, 91,000 average volume compared to 105,000, but still nice little uptick, and you're starting to see very consistent over the last 3 weeks. We had the kind of rapid rise as we came out of COVID, but now we're kind of stabilizing a little bit more into the positive. So, about a 6% increase over the last 3 weeks. So really positive.
Very, very good. We look at a couple metrics every week when we do this, and we have a very large sample set of car wash transactions, and we can see that we're not where we want to be. We're not where we were pre-COVID. This graph starts about mid to late January, and you can see, though, that we are certainly approaching the normal, and so that volume is actually really, really positive, and being consistent. Our lows are not that low, and you're going to see in a little bit, they're actually more affected by weather probably than anything else. And then closures the same way. Pretty big jump up and down, but if you go back to the beginning of the year, the pretty big jump up and down was the norm. So we have that variation going on. Again, you can see those ranges that we're in, and again, the overall trend continues to be down. So again, we're seeing the same things as we look at it 3 different ways. So we're really excited about the continued trend. Jason, you always talk about some specific states. Let's cover the positive here.
Sure. Well, what you love to see, first of all, I start with California because, compared to this week last year, they're actually up by quite a bit. Inclement weather was affected in 2019. But really, when you look at the Northeast, so Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maine, Rhode Island, you could put several other states in there as well in that Northeast region. But look at the rapid increase, over the last 3 weeks, just shooting right back up over a 2 or 3 week period into more normal levels. That's exactly what you want to see. Even in states like Maine and Massachusetts, you can see they were down toward the floor and then just skyrocketed up. Connecticut's another great example. Certainly you could throw New York in there and New Jersey as well, although the gap was a little bit wider in both of those states. But fantastic growth in the Northeast, very encouraging to see that. And then obviously California. There's too many states to pick from, this week that are looking good. But these ones have just a dramatic rise.
Jason, I got to tell you, I can't help but say it. Rhode Island really likes to wash their cars. So, all right, sorry, Rhode Island. I apologize. I couldn't help myself. Talk about states that really got hit by Mother Nature.
Yeah, well, so this is the great thing is that there's really a consistency here, and Chris is going to go over this when he goes over the map. But you see the dip in the Carolinas, dip in Georgia and Florida. This can all be attributed to weather. It has nothing to do with COVID-19, or at least mostly due to weather and hardly anything to do with COVID-19. So I put this as an example of, not so much something that's not great. It's not great by any means to have inclement weather, but it is weather related and not COVID related.
We've been saying the last few weeks, it's nice to have our old nemesis, our old problem back. And I believe weather is becoming a primary nemesis. You mentioned weather, Chris. What happened?
Well, and it's exactly what as you start to look through the numbers, you see the patterns. Then as we plot them across the map, we start to investigate the weather. We see that obviously that correlation is undeniable. But one of the things that we want to start shifting our perspective is we've been looking at the macro effect of this weather. We want to start thinking on the micro level, on the site level, because the cars didn't go away because it started to rain. So we want to be able to start investigating what happens afterwards. Is there pent-up demand? Do you get a bump? If you get several days of rain, does enrollment go up? Does it go down as a byproduct? How do you take something that you can't control, like the weather, and help it reinforce what your strategy is? And so you can still achieve your goals despite what happens in the sky. So looking at this state, I mean, it's right there. It's everything that previous weather map, and as Dan lays them over, it explains almost everything. And of course, we've got a new color of yellow this week, and those were states that were virtually just flat and unchanged, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when we're looking for stability. But just know that this time of year, it doesn't sneak up on anybody. We know there's going to be storms. There's going to be things that are going to disrupt us. So again, how do we anticipate that, number one? And how do you take advantage of it in between the gaps? And we're going to investigate some ways to do exactly that.
And it's interesting, this is from previous weeks. Some of those yellow states are actually just doing really well, and they're actually above, like California is above last year's volume. So yellow is still killing it. You just see some of the decreases around right where those storms were hitting. So it's just a really, really cool correlation.
Another interesting thing, if you go back to that last slide, Dan,
yeah,
you'll notice that there was inclement weather in Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and they're actually in the green. It's really interesting to hear Chris talk about the different types of states and how they regionally or at a site level within an MSA, how they respond to precipitation, and the difference between 1 day of rain and followed by 3 days of sunshine compared to a week or so of prolonged rain, which is what we saw down in the Southeast. So that's an interesting dichotomy to see the green, with rapid growth meant that there was likely, short amount of rainfall followed by really good weather, which can be a very positive thing when looked at over the course of a week compared to, what's happening this week as well in the Carolinas with the tropical storm and things like that, where you're going to have prolonged weather movements. It just has a dramatic effect.
Yeah, as the weather map showed, parts of Missouri got 3 inches of rain, but they got it in 1 day. They got hammered.
Yeah.
so they had some wash days to make it up. Chris, you've been talking to us about how predictability, how we're starting to shrink ranges, how normal data can be your friend and all those types of things. But kind of walk us through these states that you've got some graphs for.
So generally what these are just referred to as, they're called control charts. And basically they help us just understand what's a reasonable expectation on the upside or the downside. Now, for these to be accurate on any level, the data needs to stabilize, normalize to a specific degree, and we're pretty much there. So what you're looking at here, that green line in the center, that's the average. That top purple line is the upper threshold that represents just over the 95th percentile. So what that means is the likelihood of breaking through that line is less than 5%. It's 4 point something, something, something. Actually, it's less than 3% really in these charts. But you can build these for about any goal that you have, because as a business owner, you have to set goals. But bad goals can be just as damaging as not reaching goals at all. So when we look at this and we're starting to plan ahead, we don't want to just throw numbers against the wall. Like, oh yeah, we're going to do this next month. Well, are you? Is that likely? How are you going to close that gap? But as you apply these to different areas of your business, I mean, you can look at this not only from car count, but what about damage claims? What about employee tenure? You can really build anything into this. So hey, is this just an outlier? This is something that happened and we couldn't have predicted? Or were we actually on a trend? And this whole thing's going to shift and we might need to change our systems. So when we start to look at these, it really helps manage those expectations, help us prepare and plan for the best, but then also prevent backsliding, which is just a kick in the gut.
I think this is a great slide to also talk about kind of where we're going in the future too, from a DataBytes perspective. As these ranges begin to shrink and our lives return to normal, so to speak, it's going to be really, really important for us to partner with our customers and make sure they understand what things move the needle and be able to know that you've got a normal data set. So you should be able to start predicting things based on whether it be a marketing campaign or a drip campaign or whatever we're going to do. Hopefully, we're getting into a place that we can really begin to get back to normal and affect people, get back to the blocking and tackling, helping companies grow beyond just coming out of COVID. So I think we're all glad to to that point. Talk to us about this graph, Chris.
So it's with any industry, we kind of create this bubble and this tunnel vision around what we do, and it's hard to remind ourselves that we're part of this greater economy. And right now, there is no such thing as a business owner who doesn't have a pretty high level of stress. That just comes with the territory. But we need to remind ourselves the position that we are in. So this is coming from a government website where we're just looking at the fall off in terms of payrolls within various industries. And we have to remind ourselves sometimes that we're in a really good position. We're in one of the most optimal places that this economy has to offer. And as we've mentioned in previous episodes, the only thing worse than getting hit by this pandemic is not knowing how to leverage your way out, and not necessarily financial leverage, but just using all the advantage that we have. Because we're in that little window. As the rest of businesses start to open up, there's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. And as they start to throw that back in play, any marketing efforts, anything that we're trying to do promotion-wise is going to get lost in that noise for a little while. So when we look at this, we have to realize that the playing field has been opened up for us more than we maybe realize, and we need to take full advantage of it. But again, there's some people hurting out there, and it's going to affect a lot of things. This is actually from Moodys, which is a rating agency, and each one of these lines represents a different segment of the of industry. And this is the likelihood of default on outstanding loans or debt instruments. And you can see the significant uptick virtually across the board. That's a pretty scary thing. And this is not meant to be a doomsday slide. What this is meant to be is a perspective slide, meaning that as these folks are figuring out how to stay in existence, all we have to worry about is how to get to the next level. And that's a very privileged place to be right now. And I can tell you, with the amount of data that we have, and with DRB, and it's funny, Jason and I were on a call actually earlier today, and we were going through reams of amazing data. And somebody asked, "Hey, what if we didn't have this connection with DRB?" And I said, "Well, it would have been a very short phone call, and most of the graphs would have been in crayon." Right? So those of you who have these tools at your disposal, it's really time to put all this intelligence into play.
Well,
I literally said that, didn't I, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad that my cohorts are professionally presenting crayon graphs. It's actually a really good transition to this last slide. And just let me reemphasize, I've always said we are in a blessed position in car washing. As you've heard many times, our vision and our mission, what we do at DRB, we are passionate about car washing. We use the term sweat your assets. We want to get the most out of the assets that you've done. Our passion is for growing your business. And I want to end on the note that we are really blessed. As you saw early on in this presentation, we're approaching normal. There's a lot of people that have a long way to go. So we're blessed. And we also want to get our teams going again, get everything rolling. And we just want to make sure that we're going to now transition to really helping you grow your business post-COVID. We're calling this moving forward post-COVID. And Jason, why don't you just give some insights to the types of things that you guys will be talking about?
We're really excited about this. We pre-COVID had, come up with this idea that after our Data to Dollars Summit that we wanted to have some touch points and be pretty consistent with, some type of podcast or consistent communication out to the industry that could tap into some of the insights that we have. And, after COVID now and after this DataBytes series, which has been phenomenal, and I really appreciate you, Dan, for putting this together and emceeing, it's been a great opportunity for us as well. We're going to keep this going. And so we're going to do bi-monthly podcasts and DataBytes. Chris and I will be the hosts, and we're going to invite in special guests. So different operators, suds clients or non-clients, and people in the industry that have some weight and that we think that you could get some value from. Interview those people and even key vendors, and we're going to focus on what we've been focusing on for the last 3 years, and that's understanding consumer behavior, using data to help us create strategies to maximize revenue. And we're going to start trickling in some of those insights at a high level and some marketing tips. And we think it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys will join us.
Well, very good. Hey, thank you, everybody. As we wrap up, go ahead, Chris. You got anything for the team?
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm just super excited. And I wanted to thank Dan and DRB and everybody. This data doesn't show up out of the sky. like there's a large team of people that pull this together so we can do this every week. And I wanted to thank all of them, obviously as well. And now it's Jason mentioned, it's just time to dial this thing in. You know, looking at everything from this macro level is amazing. So we need to know what the trends are. Is it something that's happening, or is it something that's happening to you? But now as we can start to dig deeper into some of these issues, we just really want people walking away with some answers.
Really excited for you guys, some of the tools you built even in the last 60 days to comb through that data and get insights. I think it's going to be fun as you share. And I'm going to do what every good executive does. Just like good overhead, I'm going to get out of the way, and you guys go ahead and have fun. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
See you guys.